All right, we're live, boys. Senior Bowl, Mobile, Alabama. Alex Dunlap, Trashman, Cody Carpentier from Roto Underworld, Player Profiler. We got a bunch of info, man. Let's look at Trashman. He's got his notebook. I got my notebook. Cody Carpentier has got his beers. Let me go here and send this link out.
We're just chilling out here. We just got back from the stadium.
If you guys have any questions, hop in here. Let us know.
We're going to dump out our notepads on you and let you know what we thought, who we didn't like. And this is a decent day. The weather wasn't bad. Sun disappeared for a few hours. I think these Texas boys got a little cold.
Tweet out, roster watch.
Well, we're on the shady side of the stadium. You know, we had the seat backs, but
Thankfully, I think I'd take the 15 degrees colder for having the seat backs.
Really?
Those bleacher seats, I don't know.
I felt like I was sitting forward most of the time anyways.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it, boys. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining. So I guess we'll start with, I think the best way to do this is to go through it. Let's go team by team. We'll start out with the national team, coached by Robert Saleh and the Jets. I know, Cody, you had said that, and I had noticed it too, and it feels like every year you get an idea of these coaching staffs and what it is exactly that they're trying to do, and it sure feels like the Jets are in more of a mode to where it's like let's put together practices where we're gonna go like dig in on special teams and stuff, and we're gonna go try and win this damn game. Whereas the Lions, who we'll talk about next, and who's honestly, it's a more interesting practice because they've made it to where it's more of like an evaluation practice. The Lions are getting more from an evaluation standpoint from these practices. But Cody, do you want to talk about that just before we get into going through the players, going through the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks? We'll also touch on a few of these defensive players that have stood out to us. But as a preamble, you got any? What do you got on that?
Yeah, I think what you just said exactly was like we watched the Jets practice first, and we thought it came out, and they were like a good setup and everything. They warmed up, and they went right into one-on-ones, and right to here and right there. But as soon as they got done, the Lions came on the field, and it was like from the jump, everything was set up on the sideline. It was perfectly like, all right, we want to practice some of these specific drills for each position, and the coaches are all energized, running after the
one-on-ones, evaluation reps.
Yeah, well, I feel like it might be a little unfair to the players in the first practice too, because you didn't get to evaluate them.
These Jets just want to win a football game.
And then the second practice, I mean, it kind of behooves the players to be able to, see them on these, positional drills.
Yeah, but we still got to see a bunch of stuff. So let's start out with the Jets. As far as the wide receivers that were with the first group, maybe we can just start with the wideouts. With the first group, we had, as far as the rosters here, it looks like, so the wide receivers were it was Christian Watson from North Dakota State, Braylon Sanders, who was a late ad from Ole Miss, Romeo Doubs from Nevada, Khalil Shakir from Boise State, Beau Melton from Rutgers, and Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. And I'll say from the start that the wide receiver group was better with the second group, and it wasn't just because the practices were better. These guys were just better. It was a better group. But I'll kind of hand it off to you guys because for me, I think the number one thing I took away. Can we just start with Alec Pierce? Yeah, because to me, Trashman, when we started talking about Alec Pierce and we'd watched Alec Pierce, we said my comp for him was kind of like an Alan Lazard type. I wasn't sure how fast he was going to be. I certainly wasn't sure about his lateral agility and his quickness and his ability to get open in space. And I saw more of it. I saw an inability to get off a press. You and I will talk about Romeo. We'll talk about Romeo Doubs. It's a similar kind of situation, like for me with that. But Alec Pierce coming in was a guy that I was super excited to see. And after one day of practice, I mean, even versus air, he didn't look quite as fluid as I thought that he was going to look. But once we got into drills, man, at the transition points of his routes, I feel like he was having a little bit of trouble there. He didn't look as big and stuff as he did. Trashman says he's an Eric Decker. Was your comp that we had a few weeks back?
I always thought he was, sinewy, in his build. I was talking about a player who, can be a downfield receiver, but and is basically a downfield receiver and is more of a finesse player than like a power player. And I thought that. I don't think he's somebody who's going to, push people around out there. I think he really excels at the deep balls. He's a deep ball specialist, and we didn't really see him get to do a lot of that today. So, to his credit, maybe that's why he didn't really pop off. But, his short intermediate routes, there wasn't really much going on there. But I didn't really expect to see much going on there.
Whenever we done the initial work on Alec Pierce, we said, as far as the cons on his profile, it's there were concentration drops that you would notice if you watched enough of these games. He was raw at routes, and what Trashman kept saying is he would fall down after catch all the time. And to me, I had noticed it too, but I said, well, people bitched about Mike Evans for the longest time, saying that stuff. I was like, this guy's big. He kind of looks like a beast, man. When we see him in Mobile, we'll get to see this stuff. But the fact is, there's some good corners on this national team, and Alec Pierce, to me, I hate to start off on a bad note, but as far as just the day one, and these guys were just in shorts and pads today. With these wide receivers from these cornerback matchups, though, it's like you can start to tell a little. Things become pretty obvious pretty quick. And Alec Pierce, as far as the dudes that we've done, which are all the Senior Bowl guys, was basically my biggest faller. What do you think? Like, were you on Pierce to begin with? Like, were you interested at all?
No, that's the Lazard thing is like exactly where I was in lockstep with him, and I didn't hate his tape. I liked the downfield stuff because I was watching Ritter, and he kind of obviously pops off the screen when you're watching him. But again, it's a lot of the downfield stuff. There's not a lot after the catch. And today when we watched him, he didn't look 6'3", 6'4", 215, a guy that can run 4.3. He looked a guy that's like going to run the 4.5. He just looks stiff to me coming in and out of the breaks. And if he's a downfield guy, I like that. Like, I thought he could high point good, but I don't see how it translates to that next step to get into that Eric Decker tier where he's going to be like, Lazard is going to be on the team. Like, Pierce is going to make a team. Pierce is going to make a roster, but to get to that next step, I think you're going from Lazard to Decker, in my opinion. I just think it's going to be tougher for Pierce.
Yeah, he wasn't my biggest follower, though.
Yeah.
That was Shakir.
Yep.
Was Khalil Shakir on this team, or was he? He was on this team, right? Yeah. So talk about Shakir, because to me, when I watched Shakir, I saw Tylan Wallace. I thought that he's a scrappy player, and when you look at Khalil Shakir. Just
scrappy, we're like crappy.
Well, 30% of the team's receptions last year, 36% of the team's 36% of the team's receiving yards, 35% of the team's receiving touchdowns. He had a big statistical year last year, and he's one of these dudes who you just watch and you're like, man, that guy's good at football. Like on the tape, you can't say he doesn't.
No, on the tape he looked great. Yeah,
but we got in there
watching the tape today.
He is low cut. He's low cut. He
would be a great swimmer.
What does that mean?
Long torso, V-shaped, short legs, like a Michael Phelps.
He has these short strides because his body is so long, and there were times in Trashman. I don't understand. Like, I saw there were times where Khalil Shakir extended for the football,
and didn't catch it.
But he was. The thing is, it felt like he was extending for every pass that was across the middle. It was like he's diving for it or reaching for it, and like
you shouldn't have to make them all look hard.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you're just making everything look hard. It wasn't like things were easy.
Well, all right. So, Trashman, when you and I first did this, you thought he was a Golden Tate. That does not seem like a good comp anymore.
Well, I'm just talking about the hands that I saw today. I still think he was. He could get open. He got open. He got open over the middle.
Well, and they still have another 2 days of this, and then we have the game and everything, and of course there's going to be tons of stuff through the process. I'll admit that Khalil Shakir, I did see balls hit the ground.
I saw a lot of them. When I saw balls hit the ground, it was usually off the fingertips of Shakir.
Well,
that I saw today. I mean, I'm just saying, like, he had hustle. Had hustle. He had pop, but he missed a lot of balls.
When I saw balls hit the ground, it was because that dude Bailey Zappi was throwing them. We'll get to that dude. We'll get to that dude shortly. Who else? Who else was on this roster?
Let's talk about Beau Melton, because on the flip side, like Shakir, I think we were all a little bit higher on Shakir coming in, and I don't know about you guys, but I had Melton at the bottom of the entire list of this entire game, and you guys kind of making fun of me coming in because I was like, this guy, why is he here? And as we went on, the day
he was kind of good.
As the day goes on, he looked good. It was hard for you to hate watching him. It was hard for you to be like, all right, this guy sucks. And he's just. And I think a big part of that was what I was watching was obviously Rutgers. He didn't have Carson Strong and Pickett and Ritter throwing the ball at Rutgers, and I think that might have helped him a little bit today, which is how it should be, right? And did you guys like what you saw of Melton today?
I thought Melton was really smooth, great ball tracking skills and kick returning. I saw one ball he caught over his shoulder, pivoted, turned around, and
with the wind
really quickly.
The wind and the when there's that wind like that, man, you can sometimes tell, it screws things up, sometimes as far as the quarterback's ability to give him the football and the big downfield throws. And Jesus Christ, with Carson Strong, we'll talk about quarterbacks in a minute.
But good ball control with Melton.
Yeah,
he got open easily. A lot of slants over the middle. I really like what I saw with Melton today. Really smooth, really good body control.
We said that he had in our write up at RosterWatch. We said that he had suspect hands. We said that he was a raw route runner. But he was a big time 4-star athlete. He comes from, he wouldn't have gone to Rutgers unless, his dad played at Rutgers. His mom played like basketball, or she was a 2-sport athlete at Rutgers. I think his brother played. Does his big brother play at Rutgers? We can ask him tomorrow at media day. Regardless, I mean, he's one of these guys you look at him and you're just like, man, Beau Melton. I can understand why you wouldn't like him. I can understand for dynasty. He's not going to. People in dynasty leagues aren't going to be falling over themselves to go do this. But in these leagues where you get into these deep leagues where you have 20, 25 roster spots, you have 6 rounds of a rookie draft.
Yeah,
you start getting the guys that Beau Melton's a dude who you wouldn't mind having on your roster, because the fact of the matter is, when you look at him, he's kind of like, I know you hate him coming in, Cody, but like, he's one of these guys that's just he's just good at football.
He's just a good football player, period.
Yeah, he's good at football.
And a lot of time on the tape, like I said, that was tape. And Rutgers and the whole situation at Rutgers is just not. I think we would all agree it's just not optimal. And when you see a guy come to a situation like this and elevate himself, it's just overall you're happy to see it. A, and B, he's a football player, a good football player.
Who else as far as the wide receivers? Oh, Romeo Doubs from Nevada.
Yep.
So here with his quarterback, Carson Strong, Romeo Doubs had what was his number today? Because was he 80?
He was in the 80s, yeah.
80 was he wasn't 82. He was number 7. So it was 7.
Pierce was in the 80s.
I have 2 different notes saying that he was miserable off of the press.
Yeah,
just miserable. I saw the most miserable rep that I've seen in all of my years doing this. This is my 11th year at the Senior Bowl. The most miserable rep versus press in team drill in 7-on-7 drills. So bad that when the corner pressed him, and I don't have the name of the corner here who pressed him, but he stopped him to the line of scrimmage and he tried his stems and he literally just couldn't get off the press, and he just stopped. And the rest of the team ran their routes, and Romeo Doubs didn't. And that was the first time I noticed it. I noticed it again later that he was having trouble with his stems off the line of scrimmage. So it wasn't anything in his profile that we had did we say anything about him versus press in his profile, Trashman? Because you did that one. There's certainly things to like about Romeo Doubs.
I'm gonna say something about wanting to see it at the Senior Bowl specifically.
We said a simple route tree. We said that he allows the ball into his chest too much on deep throws. lacks game-breaking speed, but we didn't say anything about him versus press. So maybe that's a fact that I guarantee you if we were seeing a lot of that on film, we would have made note of that.
We'll go down to the – I might have said something in the –
versus, let's see, I mean, it's like you said. You said we're going to know after the Senior Bowl whether he's going to be a primary X or whether he's going to be more of a Z.
Yep.
Who's going to be able to start with the cushion. So I think with Romeo,
when he had the cushion though.
But here's the thing.
Today,
and then the thing was though is Strong, and which he had the connection, but then Strong just like
he had a touchdown with him too though.
Yeah.
You know, I saw Dubs get open plenty today.
Yeah, Dubs had
to me, Melton and Dubs on that team were kind of the standout receivers for me that I saw, and Braylon Sanders.
Braylon Sanders.
I want to hear your thoughts on Braylon because I didn't think he stood above and beyond anybody. Like I preferred Watson to him.
Christian Watson was the standout. I thought here I am thinking we're saving the best for last. Christian Watson. Like
I'm just saying for someone who I didn't know,
you didn't expect.
I didn't know Sanders was coming in.
Yeah,
exactly. It was a last minute ad, and I kept on saying, "Who's this guy catching balls, making plays?"
Yeah,
and it was Sanders. He was just a gamer. So I need to watch it. I need to watch his tape. I need to find out more about him. Just kind of out of the side of my eye, I was just noticed that he was making plays.
Kind of like what we talked about when we were there was like, imagine coming in here having nothing on the plate.
Yeah,
Braylon Sanders, you get nothing on the plate. You just saw him. You're like, this guy can play football.
Yeah, I don't even. So since we've had this, I haven't even pulled in his data yet.
Yeah,
I don't even think he's on y'all's rookie rankings.
Yeah,
yet.
we don't have him ranked. We just literally added him this morning, so he's up there. But again, it's a fresh ad, and I think we'll talk about the Ontario Drummond later. But Sanders might have looked better.
Sanders and Dubs were, two of the top 5 max speeds on the day.
And what they hit, 20, 21?
Sanders 20.84, Dubs 21.25.
There you go.
Well, nobody ever says that Dubs get,
I mean, and I'm saying because of that speed, that's how he gets over.
So we had it wrong on our initial scouting report that he lacks top end speed.
I think that Zay Jones comp is good because Zay Jones is like a 4.46 guy, and he's not an X, he's a Z, and I think that I really like that. I hadn't thought that before, but I saw that on your sheet there. I really like that.
So yeah, I mean. Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah. Zay was a kick-ass
standout. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like from a now you're looking at it perspective, not like because when Zay was coming out of East Carolina, obviously it was we wanted more, but
right. The other guys besides Braylon, Christian Watson. Okay, so
Christian Watson. Man.
I'll just say, man, what I like. After seeing Christian Watson live, I think that he was the best wide receiver on this roster.
Yeah.
And Jahan Dotson's not at the game. Jahan Dotson kind of he didn't even pull the Brandon Ayuk because he wasn't even. I don't think he was on the sidelines today. I didn't see him. At least Brandon Ayuk stayed for the game, but it's gonna go the same for Jahan Dotson because. He's gonna probably he'll probably get drafted in the first round, and I think that you don't think he'll go first round.
So I think he was building that way, and like Ray, I talked to Ray today. He said that he thought he didn't even measure yesterday, and they assumed that he's coming in at 5'9" instead of 5'11". But I thought like Jahan Dotson was on track.
Ray said he came in at 5'9".
He said that was what the speculation was that he was 5'9". Over what we had was 5'11", and my thought coming in was Jahan Dotson had that to grow. Like we knew Olave wasn't going to be here. It was Jahan Dotson's job. He was going to wipe the slate, and he was going to be that first round pick. He's going to go to the combine, run a 4.3, and it wasn't really going to be a question. Now there's a question. That's my problem. Like now I think there's actually a question.
Cody. I just think that his agent got feedback that.
He didn't need it.
I mean, did he really need it? He didn't need it because we all know Jahan Dotson. You watch his tape; he was going to come. That's a player built for these kinds of one-on-ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what two-way go against some of these corners. He's going to give him trouble.
Yeah.
So I just it's disappointing that he's not here. But
why not do that? Why not come in day one then and go out there and go 6 for 6,
Do it.
dog everybody, and then be like, all right,
and then pretend like you
hang
got
your cleats up, done.
pretend like you have a little
Yeah,
stretch hammy. It's not gonna hurt you too bad. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so anyway, with Watson, North Dakota State.
Yep.
Just as far as his year last year,
7.
I mean, so we have what 27% team receptions, 35% team receiving yards, 35% of his team's receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I mean, my comp for him was like a Donovan Peoples-Jones. Trashman thought he's a Miles Boykin. I think after seeing him and seeing he's 6'4", 211, but he's a real skinny, sinewy.
Yeah. Both those guys are more jacked, I would say.
Yeah. Like you look at him, and you say, man, this guy doesn't have an ounce of fat on his fat on his body. But Donovan Peoples-Jones is I'd be interested.
To me, it was a combination of his height and his speed.
Yeah,
that's where the
comp came
from.
He's not only a downfield threat, but he has good stems off the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
He creates separation at his routes transition point on his out routes. There was the
comebacks was like
those comebacks and those digs
boom, every time.
Yeah, I mean, like Christian Watson's a good player, and he's the kind of player that can really help himself here because he's coming from a smaller school. He's going up against these DBs from Georgia and Auburn and all the Alabama helmets and stuff. And you see this North Dakota State dude, and he's the one guy who's getting downfield and open past the rest of these guys, even though he wasn't listed as one of the guys with the top speeds.
Yeah,
was he?
Yeah, he was in the top 5.
He was a fifth. He was at 20.7.
Who was the top 5?
It was Josh Williams was the first cornerback at Fayetteville State, 21.75. Romeo Doubs, 21.25. Rashad White, that Arizona State running back.
We'll talk about him.
21.15. And then Braylon Sanders, 20.84. Then Christian Watson at 20.7.
So Christian Watson's he's legit, and he needs to move up your dynasty rankings. He's certainly moved up ours.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the quarterbacks.
That was the big thing I think with a lot of these. Obviously, this wide receiver group wasn't great, but when we go to quarterback, I mean, we talked about this multiple times when we were sitting there, and it was like Pickett did. He was consistent. He didn't do anything to raise his stock, but he didn't do anything to hurt his stock. Strong, I told you guys coming in, I thought Strong was the guy that was going to take that next step. I don't think he did. And Ritter, I think he just kind of was there, just like Pickett. I had both my notes for Pickett and Ritter was like consistently consistent. They just were there. And like I said to you, I was like, he feels like that Garoppolo Cousins. I don't know. Like,
Pickett to me was the one he stuck out in the sense that he didn't suck. You didn't see any errant throws.
Yeah.
You didn't see any mistakes, whereas a lot of the other quarterbacks were making those.
Well,
I thought he was the most complete quarterback of that group from what I saw today.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say I have a few things to say about this. So I was talking with an NFL scout today during the practices who was with us, and he said, whenever we look at these guys and we look at these 6 quarterbacks, like our job is to come in here and say, like, all right, well, is there one guy that sticks out? Is there this one couple guys, like, can we create tiers out of these dudes? Because it feels like there's no consensus on everything. If you talk to the scouts about the 6 quarterbacks who are here right now, the Pickett, is close to a consensus that there is Pickett kind of is
by himself.
Not by himself, but if he's kind of he's at the top. If you had to kind of pick a chalk guy at the top. Whenever it was interesting because I told Cody whenever Trashman was going to pick up our DoorDash Chick-fil-A, I was saying these guys, these quarterbacks at this Senior Bowl remind me it kind of reminded me of Jimmy G at his Senior Bowl, whereas it's a guy that you like and a guy that didn't seem like he was messing things up and a guy that was getting the ball to the wide receivers to where we're getting a good evaluation on these wide receivers. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, I've been to these Senior Bowls where we have dudes like Literally Logan Thomas was a quarterback one year here. Tech, yeah. That was the same year as the kid from, I can't even remember the name of the kid from Miami, Stephen Morris. Guys like this, terrible years where it's really hard to evaluate the receivers. I mean, these guys are getting the balls to him pretty well and really workmanlike. It's just with these three, it was hard. Like with the Lions guys, we'll talk about them in a minute. It felt like there was much more separation there. With Carson Strong, that's the interesting case because I don't want to have the same blind spot I had with Josh Allen when I came out of this Senior Bowl saying Byron just saved our ass that year by saying, like, dude, Josh Allen's good. Yeah. He's going to be good. His arm is good. It's strong. I don't worry about the wild inaccuracies downfield. There were things Byron saw. And it's a shame that Byron isn't here today to see if he saw those same things in Carson Strong, because what Carson Strong has is a fucking howitzer of an arm. Yeah. I mean, it's one – you could be sitting 15 rows back on the 50-yard line in the stands, and you can hear the goddamn thing coming off his hands, right? But it's like he's got this fire hose, and he can't control where it's he can't control it. It's like he's got some magical power or some force, and it overtakes him, and the ball goes too far. So I don't know what to make of the inaccuracy downfield. I don't know. It seemed like on some of the mid-range throws that he was maybe forcing it, maybe trying to. He wasn't throwing a catchable football. Yeah. But I don't want to give up on the guy because I just say, Jesus, I mean, that arm talent, stupid. Because you look at it versus the other guys, and you talk about it on film, but you look at it versus the other guys, it's beyond obvious, right? It was beyond obvious to you guys, right?
It was pretty blatantly clear he had the strongest arm out of everybody. Like I kind of mentioned it while they were warming up. It was like it felt like even the basic throws, though, he was overthrowing them. He was like trying to show that he had that arm strength when like everybody knows that. And then
I feel like Willis has close.
With downfield, I think I would agree Willis is getting close, but back to like Strong though, it felt like, and hopefully someone just says, "Hey, dude, relax, like breathe."
His agent needs to
just relax, man. Or like I know he works out with Jordan Palmer. Like someone call him and just tell him just relax, because even like when they were in team, it felt like he would like not go to the middle routes, and he would hold the ball a little bit longer just so he could dance around and get that ball up. Like even the last play I think they had as team, he was rolling around. It was like, why? And then he just launched it like 80 yards, and it was like up 80 yards up. And it was like, why?
It was nowhere near Christian Watson.
Yeah, because he just wanted to rip it. He just like.
For sure.
That's the thing you worry about. But again, back to what you said with Byron, like he's got the arm. Trust it. Someone's going to reel him in. If he goes to the right franchise, he's going to get reeled in.
And he looks, I mean, he looks like hard. It wasn't a day where, he came in and it was one of the, it wasn't a Justin Herbert.
Yeah, no.
Big arm day where you saw, like a couple of those money throws and you're just like, oh, okay. Like now you saw the arm, but you didn't necessarily see the arm mixed with just the on the money
connection,
perfect spot throws. And hopefully we'll get to see those through the rest of the week.
That one like touchdown pass
down the right side.
Yeah, that was nice.
Down the right
side.
That was a good pass. And then you guys have anything specific on Ritter? I think Ritter is
good mobility.
He's good, but I'm not sure I love him throwing on the move. I think he can escape the pocket and stuff like that, but I think once he gets out there and he escapes, I'm not sure I love him throwing on.
When he was doing the first drills that they did, where they didn't have the defenders on him, and he kind of ran out short intermediate throws, he was hitting all.
That's versus air. I mean, like, I'm interested in Ritter. I'm interested in Ritter for sure. I just, Ritter, the Cincy got, Alec Ritter to Alec Pierce. I was expecting that to be awesome.
Yeah, like.
He didn't really
force it much either. Right. It was like Carson forced it to Dubes, and the connection at least looked like it was there. Like he was forcing it to him, whereas Ritter just kind of, didn't really look. There was a couple of crossing routes I think they hit Pierce on, but it was.
As far as the running backs, so we had in this first group. Let me just see if I can just go through the roster here and just tell everybody who was in this. So we had Rashad White from Arizona State. We had Jerome Ford from Cincinnati. we had Tyler Beatty from Missouri, and we had Abram Smith from Baylor. Abram Smith, we talked about. I tweeted it out last night. Abram Smith has 7 5/8 inch hands, and it's not just that. The weirdest thing about Abram Smith is that his features are all a little bit small.
Yeah,
it's weird. Which is wild because he's an ex-linebacker.
We thought he was
and he looks like this big beastly runner whenever for Baylor. I mean, Jesus Christ, I saw him versus Texas this year. Like, I mean, don't get me started about that. But and he looks kind of fine when he's out there running. But you see him, man. He's got these kind of thinner legs and kind of Darren McFadden ankles that you wouldn't expect out of a dude who transitioned from running back to linebacker. I don't know if you guys have anything to really say about him that you're interested in. He's not really at the top of my list. The guys number 3 and number 4 are the two that I want to talk about.
I mean, Alec Smith, I would say he had pretty decent footwork, but he was the least impressed. I mean, he was the least standout of the running backs on that side today.
I was going to say I had him coming in. I thought he was ahead of Beatty, and then I was like, throughout, it was like pretty
Beatty 25. Oh
yeah, it was pretty clear that it was Ford and White, and then it was Beatty and Smith was like he was not competing with that top group. But
you had Beatty. Do you consider Beatty there with Ford and White?
No.
Okay, so let's just talk about Rachaad White because he's got juice, dude. Yeah. And he came in, let's see, what did he come in at as far as his weigh-ins? He is 6 foot 1/2 inch, 210 pounds, 9.5 inch hands.
Perfect.
I'm looking at some of my notes here. I have nifty feet, just smooth, patient. He has those smooth, patient cuts, not a violent cutter.
Le'Veon. That's what I was like. That's his type. Not Le'Veon, but like the patience, the cuts, the smoothness.
He's kind of upright too.
Yeah.
He's a little tall, a little over 6 feet. Maybe presents a little bit of surface area to the defense. Maybe you worry about that a little bit. We'll see how that goes. But just excellent frame. Very thick lower half. His thighs, like you're the first thing you noticed to me. Like Cody's like a bodybuilder and stuff, so he looks at he's like, look at his thighs, dude. I was like, Jesus Christ, look at his thighs. But yeah, man, I think that the only thing that I noticed was if you watched him versus Jerome Ford, I thought that Jerome Ford, who's 5'10" and
209.
Or almost 5'11".
I thought they were like I didn't think they looked like they were that close in size.
And Jerome Ford has smaller hands, but Jerome Ford looks like a much more natural catcher of the football to me. He
looked like a more natural catcher of football, and I thought he was maybe a little bit more pop.
Yeah,
on those inside runs.
Contact,
yeah. And I've written down that I liked him better in the inside run drills as well. But I did think that there was something about the way that Rachaad White
just how he carried himself.
He's got that lull you to sleep kind of like you said, that patience, I guess, is a good term. And
the Camaro,
he would wait for on the outside zone and stuff like that. Man, he's not going to be a guy to take it to the corner. He's gonna find his zone lane. He's gonna pop up field. When he does, the only thing that I worry about with him is the fact that he kind of runs. He presents a little bit. He presents a good amount of surface area through his.
And so did Adrian Peterson.
Well, so did. We're not comparing him to Adrian Peterson, but
I mean, what I was thinking about just his running style.
We don't have the running backs ranked yet at RosterWatch, but I'm just looking at Roto Underworld, player profile. Do you guys have these guys pretty close?
We had White lower, but that was one where I had him coming in at 6. I had him coming in at 5, right behind Ford at 4, and
you have him back to
that. Makes sense.
I like that spot for him, and
I think that's fine.
I think that's probably where he's going to stay. I don't know if I want to move him ahead of Ford. Like you said, the inside run was pretty clear that he looked better, but I liked kind of what I kept saying is like the Bell Kamara patience and attitude that he brings and he presents. 43 receptions at Arizona State this year. I mean, that's Ford probably looked better receiving, but guy can still do it. I just overall, I think White probably impressed me the most at running back today. Because, again, 210, 209, they came in the same size, but White clearly looked bigger.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It was like this guy just and the way he carried
Ford's more compact.
Ford's gonna be nice.
More compact, thicker thighs.
He gets through the line with a just not. I think White's a little bit vulnerable with the way that he runs. I could be wrong about that. Then I just think we've saved it for the very end. Number 85, the tight end, Trey Mcbride. He's probably the best. He's probably the best receiver in Mobile right now. He's got his hand. He catches everything.
Yeah. I saw him get dogged by Mcbride. By number 56. Was it
Beavers, Darien Beavers from Cincinnati.
Oh, he manhandled Mcbride.
Yeah.
When?
In the run game?
No, it was a drill. Yeah.
Well, Jesus, I must have.
You didn't see it. It was that one you saw it. He was on the far side of the field.
Yeah.
That was Beavers, man. He manhandled.
But Beavers
must be talking about. Look, man, Trey Mcbride is the pro.
I'm just saying, Mcbride was great otherwise, but on that one drill, it just showed how. Beavers.
I'm trying to think about the best tight ends I've seen here, and I'm thinking about like the Gerald Everett.
I mean, we saw
Evan Howards and the Evan Ingrams and the Troutman was awesome here. Dallas Goedert for a day was awesome here. I'm better than Goddard. I'm trying to think of a tight end that looks better than Trey Mcbride. I think he might be my favorite tight end I've seen here in 11 years.
I don't know. I think Ingram might have been better.
But Ingram, yeah.
I think Ingram might have been better.
I
remember that because that was the last one I went to. So like for me thinking about how you were reacting to him then and how we reacted to Ingram then and just I don't know. He just seemed like a more fluid runner maybe than Mcbride.
But Mcbride, dude, he catches everything.
Yeah, I mean he did catch a lot. I'm just saying we're talking about the grand
scheme of he's gonna be a first round pick.
Tight ends.
I think he's gonna push it.
Is he gonna be a first round pick?
I think he's gonna push it.
I think he could.
I mean, if that guy's not a first round pick, I don't know who the hell it is. You guys have any defensive players or any other tight ends that you want to shout out from this group? I can pull up the roster here. Let's see. So we have. We have Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin.
This was
Cole Turner from Nevada.
Turner looked big. Turner looked more. He looked thicker than I thought he was. I thought more of a Gesicki. But
how do I not have a single note on the Ohio State?
He didn't make a lot of plays. Everything was like the 3 yards and in. It was just the same way Ohio State used him was 3 yards and in, and they didn't really use much. Kohler, the same thing. There wasn't a lot on Kohler today. To me, it was Turner and McBride that stood out the most. And McBride was clearly ahead of him. And coming in, I thought Turner was closer to a Gesicki, but he looked thicker today. He looked bigger. And I don't know. I like Turner, but I think McBride's the only guy that really needs to be talked about, I think, on this whole team. But on defense, we talked about Beavers. My thought was Winfrey from Oklahoma, Beavers, and Maja, however you say it, Sanders from Cincinnati. When those guys were on the field together, they were borderline unstoppable until, of course, I go, Trashman, watch this guy, and then he goes and gets pancaked. But those guys looked the best. I thought offensive lineman, Matt Willetsko from North Dakota. We were looking at Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan coming in was one of the guys we wanted to look at. And Willetsko from North Dakota, I thought looked better than Raymond. He was a later 4th, 5th round looking guy, but I thought he looked strong today. Great in the run blocking. So that's the only notes I got on the offensive defensive line right now.
We have some questions here about somebody's asking about where you get to watch practices. That isn't really AJ Terrell, I don't think. We were just at practice, or we just got home from practice. I'm not sure they're showing it today.
I think tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. I think there was some talk about ESPNU. They might be showing some
like 11 or 11:30. I want to say.
The defensive players on these guys, and we'll move on because we have a lot to say about this next team. But so as far as the defensive guys that I had noted here, I had noted number 36, the Kirby Joseph from Illinois, who one of the scouts I was talking to at practice today said their area guy had a good grade on. Number 56, who is your boy Darien Beavers. So I ended up noticing him too. So Darien Beavers this week, the linebacker out of Cincinnati, having obviously having some kind of standout performance that, all three of us have noticed him together. And then also number 22, Tariq Castro-Fields from Penn State, the cornerback.
He was in everyone's face. I remember that.
He's good, man.
Yeah.
And dude, and he was the one guy of the corners that stayed after practice and was working with the coaches. So you know that they love to see that. Okay, let's go to the American team now that was headed up by Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions. I didn't notice Dan Campbell out there running around.
He was standing like the 50-yard line the whole time, just kind of chilling, kind of watching everything. Probably where he wants to be at all this other coaches kind of. So
we'll just talk about like our bread and butter here. We'll start with wide receivers, and this was a really good group. So we had Velus Jones Jr. from Tennessee, Danny Gray from SMU, Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama, Dontario Drummond from Ole Miss, and then Calvin Austin III from Memphis. Let's just start out by talking about Jalen Tolbert because he's the first guy that anybody would have talked about the minute he walked into that goddamn stadium. He came in at only 6'1" and an eighth after being listed at 6. He was listed at 6'3", 190. Mm-hmm. He came in at 6'1" and an eighth, 190. Was it 197 or 193?
It was in the 90s.
Let me look and see. I think it was 193, but Jalen Tolbert 195. So he came in at 195. So basically a little bit shorter, a little bit thicker than we thought. But holy cow, man! What a dude! He looks like he's born for this. Like he's born for this.
That's exactly what you said when he walked in. I go, oh, dude, look at Jalen Tolbert. You're like, dude, that guy's just
and nothing was wasted.
Nothing.
My original comp on him was all wrong. I said that it was a Josh. He was like a Josh Reynolds because I mean, when you look at this prototype of like a 6'2.5", 6'3" guy, 190. But somebody who can go up and get it, who can go to the sky to go get it. That's what we saw out of Josh Reynolds at Texas A&M Trashman. I know you love that pro day. I think that when you look at Jalen Tolbert, you wonder, okay, well, he's from a small school. He was the Sun Belt player of the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year. He did go off for 82 receptions, 1,474 yards, and 8 touchdowns last year. Those 8 touchdowns, almost 40% of his team's touchdowns. I mean, just he was a nuclear weapon. And you figure, well, is this one of these guys? He just goes to school here in Mobile, and the Senior Bowl guys are throwing this dude. No, man. Like he's like as far as the overall receiver group here, as of now, I had a good ranking on him to begin. It didn't come down at all without Jahan Dotson here. I feel like he's the best wide receiver in Mobile. He's somebody who can it's like if he can really run somewhere in the low 4.4s like they're talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I don't think he's a round 1 guy, but he's a round 2 lock. Yeah. He's a day 2 lock.
He's a day 2 lock because like what I talked about was I thought he was like a Darnell Mooney version. He's bigger. He's thicker. He's taller than Darnell Mooney. I think he might be a better prospect than Darnell Mooney. We saw Mooney go to the 5th round.
Mooney, I like that.
No way in hell going to the 5th round.
He's slinky like Mooney.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's gonna.
I think he's more rocked up than me.
He's more rocked up than everybody.
but he's not going to go to the 5th round. You say day 2. Like I don't think he gets out of day 2. No way.
Dude, he could run a 4.51 and go day 2.
I think so.
Just from his play speed and
I thought he could have came out last year. He did 1,100 yards last year. And my notes before my last show I did with the FeatureCast was why did he come out last year? And then it was like, oh, he came back. Obviously, what we talked about last night was these guys. Ideally, it's like the Reggie Roberson thing. It's like, oh, well, I'll come back next year and just elevate even more. This guy came back and literally took it to the next level, 1,500 yards, and he dogged everybody that he played against.
It looks like,
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, it looks like our dude Ricardo here in the chat is saying that there's going to be a split between ESPNU and ESPN2 tomorrow for practices. So if you guys want to watch, there wasn't any coverage today, but it looks like we're going to have some coverage tomorrow, and it'll be good to have coverage Thursday because that thing might get rained out. So we're going to need we're going to need that TV coverage.
I mean, from what I saw today, Tolbert was probably the best receiving prospect just based on his size and what he did out there. To me, Calvin Austin III had the best.
Yeah.
Well, that's
day of a wide receiver.
Yeah. So let's talk about Calvin Austin III because I had him ranked as just based on. I thought this guy was too puny. When I watched the film, I was just like, dude, he doesn't look the same as he did on tape. I don't know if he but anyway. So we had him originally at 5'9". He was listed at 5'9", 160 pounds,
Yep.
and you're just like, that's what are you gonna do with this, man? That kind of reminds you of like we said, like a Jakeem Grant or like a Tutu Atwell or something. It's like what kind of place is there in the NFL for this kind of guy? But then you see him. He came in at 5'7" 3/8", 173 pounds. So not a giant, but dude, look. I mean, 9.5 inch hand for a guy like that. 30 5/8 inch arm.
I mean, and he wears his weight well. I mean, he's like thick legs. Look like a soccer player.
Dude, I came out of and we talked about Beau Melton being good at he's a very rich man's Beau Melton. Because here's the thing. Calvin Austin is super, just on his own, is just super fast.
He's smooth he's quick.
He could end up being the fastest wide receiver in this whole entire draft. Yeah. And I thought, well, who gives a shit if he's the fastest wide receiver in this draft if he's so small? He's not. And I just got to thinking to myself through practice today, I'm like, well, if last year I thought that I could if I thought I could put Rondale Moore in my top 5 wide receivers as far as rookies last year, what am
I missing with Calvin Austin?
Right,
it's the same shit, except it's better downfield.
Yes, and we've seen through the course of this season, you and I were talking about it last night with some of the NFL dudes we were talking about how there was been discontent about Rondale Moore downfield this year. And like, trust me, you're not going to get that with Calvin Austin.
This is him, but
he had
downfield.
He had some of the best highlight catches of the day. Not only, but some of the best.
It's a pleasure to watch him run routes too.
That out and up that he had was like,
well, he can get in and out of them. He can double move your ass. So basically, as far as for me this week, let me see, where did I move? Right after practice, I just said, he's in my top 4 of the Senior Bowl wide receivers this week. But that's counting Jahan Dotson. So if we were to do our roster watch all Senior Bowl team right now, which we're not going to do, we're going to wait till right before the game to drop that thing where we list our favorite players. But Calvin Austin would be on it.
Yeah,
he should be on your radar. He's not that old. I want to. Do you have his exact age? I had it that he's going to be 23 through his whole entire.
I haven't turned 23. I think next month.
So he's going to be 23 through his whole entire rookie season. So he's not super old. He's not like some of these guys, like Dontario Drummond or
Velus
Jones Jr. or any of these guys that are going to be 25 this year after such a
and he made no errors. It felt like to me like Velus Jones. We'll talk about him in a minute, but like some of these guys had Dontario errors, Velus errors. Everything with Calvin felt smooth there. All the deep balls where he was in position to make the play every time. That my favorite thing about Calvin Austin today was literally that out and up. That route was so smooth, and I'm not going to say the name like I talked about before, but for the Kansas City Chiefs, man, that's the closest thing I've seen to a guy like that with that type of.
Oh, you have a confidence.
No. I ain't saying that. I'm saying there's this guy on the Chiefs that has the shiftiness, the smoothness in routes, and just at that level of speed,
change of direction,
at that level of
not
speed,
losing speed.
Yeah,
it's pretty uncanny.
It's you can't find it anywhere.
Well, we're like as always at Roster Watch, we're gonna with the profiles that we've already done. I mean, Cody's been updating stuff as he gets new information today. Player Profiler. We're doing the same at Roster Watch, and like we're gonna get those comps for Calvin Austin updated because he's not a Tutu Atwell. He is not a Jakeem Grant. Those were bad comps, and whenever we have those things, that's why we go try to do. That's why we do all this stuff. I mean, we want to make sure that you have the best information. So that will be updated as soon as we get time. But we wanted to get this out to you just as soon as we could after practice. As far as the other guys on this team, outside of those two. You guys mentioned Velus Jones, who I mean
Velus and Danny Gray.
Danny Gray was the other guy.
Gray was a dude who
we both like Gray coming in.
You two did.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure I did. I kind of do. Yeah. I like him better than Velus Jones. I think I like him better than Trey Turner. I'd be interested to hear kind of what you guys thought about him. To me, he just felt like I said the first thing that I said when I looked at him, I said, he looks like Cedric Wilson in Cedric Wilson's year. Cedric Wilson really.
You're talking about Turner.
Turner, yeah. Real Turner's 11, right? Yeah, 11. Yeah, skinny, long-legged. Again, another one of these workman-like dudes that came out there. He didn't see Trey Turner, of course, from
he didn't do anything wrong.
He was solid. He was solid.
Yeah, he didn't do anything wrong, but it's just his size. He's a little bit smaller than I thought. He came in at 6'1", but only 179. But he wears that 179 in a really, really thin way.
Yeah, skinny legs.
Yeah, it reminded me a whole lot of Cedric Wilson during his week, where Cedric Wilson actually had a solid week of practice. I think Trey Turner's solid. I'm not sure what there is about him that
DeMarcus Robinson. That's
really stands.
Like, just consistently there, like you said, he's good. But Cedric Wilson had a great showing, and
I'll have to go watch and see if he's as good because they love DeMarcus Robinson's blocking. Yeah. DeMarcus Robinson was a great blocker coming out. I'm not sure that, but that's another. It's kind of like the same thing, man. Workman-like, good player, efficient. Like I'm not sure he's going to blow anybody's socks off. I'm not sure in Dynasty we're going to be. I'm not sure in any leagues we're going to be tripping over our feet. Like not in standard rookie drafts where we only have one quarterback leagues, even where it's 12 teams and where you just get 4 or 5 rounds. I'm not sure Trey Turner's going to go off the board in those. I don't think. Do you guys think anybody's going to be into Velus Jones? I mean, he moves really well. He's just so old.
He had some good plays. He was the most inconsistent.
Very.
I saw of the receivers. He had some really great plays. Some eye-catching catches. And he got open on some. He left. Who would he leave in the dust that one play?
Because that was the nice one. Because exactly what you're saying is the inconsistency was he got dogged, kind of like Dubes did on that one play where he jammed him like 4 yards off, and Velus quit, and it was nothing. And then he turns around, looks at the coach, and the coach is like, "Do it again." And he's fired. "Oh, I'm gonna do it again." And he lines back up, and I can't remember the cornerback he was playing. I think it was the guy is like 6'4", big guy. Can't remember his name. Anyway. He literally got the lines, and he was like, all right, he turned it on. Like, he found that switch, and like you said, dusted it.
Left him in the dust.
What
a touchdown.
What did you guys think about Dontario Drummond? Because here's my deal. Talk about it. I mean, the guy that can't get off the press. I mean, the worst rep I saw was that Romeo Dubs rep versus press. Dontario Drummond had massive trouble versus press coverage. And you wonder, it's like, you watch him at Ole Miss, and you see he's so thick, and you look at the height and weight on him, and you see this thick guy that wears number 11, and you just he's almost 220 pounds. He's 6 foot 1/2 inch, and
everything was there.
You look at it. A good statistical season. I mean, Jesus, is that right? What I'm seeing, did he really have 76 for 10, 28, and 8 last year? Just like one of the more productive receivers. But you watch his tape; he's always out of the slot. And you think AJ Brown? I mean, like
Elijah Moore, AJ Brown,
but here, I mean, he's not AJ Brown. And the reason why he's in the slot is because I think he has trouble with his feet coming off the line of scrimmage. Impressed? I'm not. I wasn't. Were you impressed with his hands or in it? Like, was there anything?
I really didn't see much of him.
I was hoping Dontario Drummond was going to come
because like he just didn't really pop. I mean, other players you saw, you caught your eye. Nothing really caught your eye with Drummond.
We've just had such a good track record recently, the last 3 years with these Ole Miss wide receivers. I mean, we had DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, even DeMarcus Lodge, made it to an NFL roster. Then we have Elijah Mitchell, and now we have Dontario Drummond, and then we have Braylon Sanders. And I was like, well, like maybe this is going to be a week where, I mean, some of these guys are going to have to pop off and make a name for themselves. Why not Dontario Drummond? I mean, he looks like he could. He's got a kind of a real unique big slot kind of body to him, and I don't know. I'm not sure about Dontario Drummond.
Very disappointed.
Well, it's just day one, and
I just didn't. I have no opinion on him.
Like you said, he couldn't separate. He couldn't separate.
I'm wondering if when we get to Thursday for red zone work, whether he really pops out then.
Maybe.
But
I hope so. I hope so, because we talked about him the other day. It was like, this is the one guy we're like not really getting a lot of buzz, and he could / should be will he do it? And with the talent that we've talked about, like this team's more talented than our team, I think, from a wide receiver perspective. So it should have elevated him to say, all right, I'm the biggest guy on this team. I'm the thickest dude in this team. I can make the plays. And it literally, he came out and he was wearing 81. And I'm like, God, this guy kind of looks like a slow, like Mike Williams plays kind of slow, in my opinion.
Oh,
Yeah. And this guy, like, maybe it was the 81 thing, but he looked like a smaller Mike Williams, just like slow motion through reps. And I didn't love it.
I think the biggest takeaway from these wide receivers. Oh wait,
we're going to touch on Gray. We're going to touch on.
I didn't give you all. Like, why don't you guys talk about Gray? I thought Gray to me was another one of these guys that just looked good. He was definitely. I was telling Cody, Malik Willis loves him some Danny Gray. Every single time.
Gray was creating separation.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout the day, that's what I noticed. He was able to create separation with his speed. And he caught a lot of balls. I mean, like you said, Willis loved him. He got open all the time. Well, one downside I saw, but he had suspect hands.
Yep.
He considering all the balls that he got, all the targets that he got, he should have been catching more of them.
Cody, you were telling me something about his upper body. What were you saying?
I just thought, and I mentioned this last week again, his upper body, when you walked on the field, like I couldn't tell if it was one of those guys that just wore big ass pads, like tall pads, or was his upper body, because everything was kind of like swole up top.
Right.
But again, like you said, the separation was there, the speed was there, and I think the deep ball that he dropped in the end zone, where he had the ball was there, beautiful placement. You're like, oh my God. And Sam Howell, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but dime, and Danny Gray drops it.
Yeah.
And then you saw Malik Willis go back to him in the corner of the end zone, and he hits him and he catches it, and it's more of a contested catch than the one before that. And there's, again, the inconsistencies, but that's kind of like the level of talent we're at right now is we're digging through these diamonds. And I think we like Danny Gray, but he didn't take that next step that I wanted to see.
The running backs for this group, I mean, they were headlined by Brian Robinson from Alabama as far as like the big name guys. But dude, I have interest in some of these other dudes. So there's Devontae Price, number 3. That's just he's unlike any running back you've ever seen. Zaquandre White from South Carolina. And then Damian Pierce from Florida, a guy who Cody hated coming in. But let's just start by Brian Robinson. I mean, I said that like I didn't say like I was out on Brian Robinson, but I said I was expecting to maybe see a little bit more out of the guy, just because every time an Alabama runner kind of comes around, we're sort of expecting. I'll just say, like last year in the first day of practice, Najee Harris came in and just practiced a little bit, during the half speed drills, and then some of these foolish speed drills where the coaches are really saying stay up inside run. And with Najee, he outside zone, just his bread and butter, they would just run it. He just looked like, he did enough to where he could literally. After he ran a couple of reps doing that, catching the football, he kind of went to the sidelines to talk to scouts for the rest of practice because he looked so good at it. Brian Robinson, and this has to do also with how sick this. I mean, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you should be sick about the defensive linemen and the edge rushers these guys are getting to evaluate. Even some of these corners. I love the Lions team a lot more than the Jets team just overall, but. Brian Robinson he has trouble. He has trouble finding space, man. He had trouble today finding space. He had trouble finding open lanes. I wasn't sure how much I liked his footwork behind the line of scrimmage. I wasn't sure how much I really trusted his vision, which is, there were just too many negative and too many kind of 0-yard plays. He did have the one run at the very end of inside run drills. Mm-hmm. We said, oh, so that could be nice, what Brian Robinson does. Obviously, to hear y'all's thoughts, though, as far as the height and weight on him, the height and weight came in for Brian Robinson at 6'1" and 5'8", 226 pounds. So, I mean, obviously, he's got the size. I'm not sure that we're talking about a Najee Harris type of. Let me say this. I'm sure we're not talking about a Najee Harris kind of guy.
I would say so. I wasn't impressed with him coming in. I think we had him below White and Ford, which a lot of people didn't. Even we're collecting mock draft data from the NFL, and back in September, October, Brian Robinson was a first round talent. And then you come now And he came out here and he held himself. He walked around like he was the top dog here. But I think we'd all agree he's not. From overall
would you love to have, like, if you're in a dynasty rookie draft with a 1 quarterback league, would you be interested in him at the 1.07 or 8?
No.
Like, I'm just not sure that I would.
I don't want to push that button because it gives me too much, like I mentioned, Jordan Howard when we were there. It was like too much Jordan Howard, Kenyon Drake vibes. Like, and I don't love that. Like, yeah, he's big. Like, we talked about his legs. His legs are massive. So is Zaquandre White's though. But it's not going to be. He's not going to run a 4.4. He's not going to run a 4.44. He's not going to be in that tier of speed and breakaway and dynamism. It's just he's going to be a guy.
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe that he weighs that much more than White. Looking at
him, White looked the same size because I was mentioning his legs, and you guys like look at Zaquandre though, and they're like side by side, both of them monsters.
Well, so Zaquandre White, South Carolina. 5'11 and a half, 212 pounds, 9.5-inch hands. As far as, actually one of the longer arm measurements. I didn't necessarily notice that, but I mean, I have number 4 written down here in my notes more than any.
Yeah, you kept mentioning him the whole
more
time.
than any running back. I loved it. He's quick. He felt quicker to the edge to me. He felt more decisive in his cuts to me. He felt like he had the more explosive juice and burst out of his cuts. And with these kinds of things, those are the things you want to see. I'm not trying to dog on Brian's pass protection reps. I mean, the worst pass protector I've seen at the Senior Bowl was Kenyon Drake. And Brian Robinson wasn't that bad, but it's funny you bring up Kenyon Drake when you talk about him. Because he had a few really rough reps as far as his pass protection. Zaquandre White, who I'm still just getting to know, I'd be interested to hear from you. I haven't even done my film work on him yet, but was he in pass protection a lot there because he gets his nose right in the center of these guys' chest plates. He reminds me of like James White was like him. I remember James White versus Chris Borland, the Wisconsin crime at that Senior Bowl, and how I fell in love with that dude's pass protection. I thought that Zaquandre White, not the whole time, but he did have some reps like that. But just also that goes a long way when you're a good inside runner, and if your team trusts you to be able to come in the same way that like the Chiefs did with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was another guy who was pretty good at pass protection at the Senior Bowl. So White also popped off to me as far as the receiving. And I also had just all of my notes on number 4, though, basically outside of the pass protection is just his inside running and his running basically as angry as you can.
Yeah. I thought you were extremely hard.
As angry as you can when you're just wearing shorts and shoulder pads and a helmet. Like there's no angrier that you can run.
I don't know, like 27 out of Florida.
Pierce. Damian Pierce.
I mean, like he was the most underwhelming coming into me just looking at him.
But through the practice,
he's wearing sweats, but you see him run and you see him finish runs. And like, I thought he might have been the hardest runner that I saw.
I think Zaquandre ran the hardest through the line. And then Pierce, once he got like right at the line, it was through that. Everything past that was like,
second and third level guys.
Yeah, second, third level, yeah.
But you would, and I've certainly not done work on anybody that deep. You were telling me he's never rushed
over 600 yards at Florida, but that was one of the guys Nagy when they did the reveal show was Nagy's like, this Pierce guy's gonna pop at the Senior Bowl, and I was like,
he did pop. He runs with pop.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? This guy's not gonna do anything. And he did. He looked good. Like, and Zaquandre as well. Like, I haven't popped into the Zaquandre film, so I'm more familiar with Kevin Harris, and Kevin Harris is also at South Carolina. Zaquandre was a late ad, and
he's good.
He's good. He runs really hard, and running hard and having that energy and that mental fortitude. That's what's going to keep you in the league. Like, you just have to have that energy, or
These late ads, man, they could be good.
If you look at it right, if you're late ad, you look at it like, these guys didn't really want me here. I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah, man.
But what I like about Pierce too is that like he has that pop and something about his stature and his lower center of gravity. I just think he could be successful on the next level. And
Yeah.
It seems like he could do something.
All right, so you guys want to talk about any of y'all's tight ends from this group, and then we'll finish it with the quarterbacks, and then go over any defensive guys and final thoughts. The tight ends we have here in this group are, there was the Coastal Carolina one, Isaiah Likely. My main
Calcuttara was pretty clear cut.
Dude. Well, here's the thing. So I'll talk about Grant Calcuttara and how much I just loved him when he was at Oklahoma. Just as somebody who would just watch these Texas-Oklahoma games at the Cotton Bowl, Calcuttara was like he's just a skyscraper in the red zone. Like a couple of scouts that I would talk to said the same thing today, that Calcuttara as a young player at Oklahoma was one who, when you're scouting all the Oklahoma, they say when you scout all the Oklahoma guys, you wonder like, well, what about the tight end? What about Calcuttara? Yeah. And then he has the concussions, retires medically from football, comes back after the COVID year.
Yeah, because he skipped 2020 and
went to SMU this year, and he's still Grant Calcuttara. Like he's still dude, he's good, man. And I think the thing with him in Dynasty and tight end premium, I think he's certainly worth a pick in tight end premium in your rookie drafts. I would just say that one, I think his profile is going to raise.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing from scouts, his profile is going to raise because they're into him. The worry is the same worry that we all have. It's like, what about the head injuries? Is the medical staff going to clear him? Is it? I don't even know. Like, is that something where they can? I don't think they can do a scan or something. So I'm not sure even how that works.
They just probably have to go through his records and just see like when they happened, how they happened, all that stuff.
Get advice about if he's more susceptible to them now. Or I'm not sure how that even works. But dude, Calcuttara looks. I mean, he really, really looks good out here. I wanted to hear from Cody though about your guy who I was not impressed with, but you were really high on coming in.
Yeah. Isaiah
Likely from Coastal Carolina, because to me he seems undersized, and if a guy's going to be undersized, 6'4", 241. So obviously, if he walks in here, he's going to kick everybody's ass except Cody probably. So I hate to call him undersized.
He has to catch me first,
right? Well, he could catch me and then kick my ass. For a guy his size, I'm not sure that I loved the way that he moved. So I'm just curious to
coming in. I had him close to like a Brevin, Jordan, and Irv Smith, and I liked him. I had him tight end 3. And we come in today, and he didn't impress at all, I didn't think. I think he got dominated a little bit in the one-on-ones. And then you go, and even I guess the easy thing is just seeing Dulcich and Calcuttara play next to him. And even Bellinger made a couple catches. And
Bellinger made a lot of catches.
I thought he did too. And when I was talking about him before, I was like, this is going to be a Dalton Schultz guy.
Bellinger's the San Diego State kid, 6'2", 252.
I thought he was going to be like a Dalton Schultz. It's going to take him 3 years. And now after watching today, getting targeted, making catches, and just consistently being there, I feel a lot better about Daniel Bellinger than I did before. But
he was just in the right place in the right time, it seemed.
I think if you came in here with no knowledge of any of these guys, likely would have been number 4 on this team at tight end right now.
Yeah. Dulcich looked
really
good throughout.
85?
Oh,
yeah. 85 is good. He's got that duck walk.
But
it's like he's so hard to view somebody as athletic when they run with their feet
But
pointed
he's
out
really
like
good
this.
upfield, really quick to turn upfield.
He's got a couple big games, 3, 4, 5 catch games over 100, 120 yards. Like that was something that really built his profile for me. But I think the Calcuttara, like you said, I think he was the most impressive to me today. And coming in, I had a Tyler Conklin comp on him, and I think I'm wrong. I think I'm a little low on him though. Like I like Calcuttara more than Conklin now after seeing him in person because he's bigger than Conklin is. Conklin might be a little more smooth, but I mean, we're talking about Grant Calcuttara. He's down in your country and filling in for Mark Andrews after Mark Andrews graduated with the NFL, obviously. Yeah. I remember Calcuttara freshman, sophomore year being like, this is going to be that dude. This is going to be that dude. And now we're talking about him like he's building the case back up.
Scouts just say that with doing the Jalen Hurts stuff, doing the Baker Mayfield stuff, doing the Hollywood stuff, doing the CeeDee Lamb stuff, doing all that stuff with this offense, you always just it was impossible not to notice Calcuttara, and so now he's kind of back on the scene. It's just whether that medical stuff is going to clear, but you're going to see him rise through the process. So you're going to be ahead of the curve, knowing here with your boys from RosterWatch and Roto Underworld Player Profiler. All right, the quarterbacks, fellas. I think first off, Bailey Zappi, the kid from wherever, Washington or Western Kentucky. He just, like we said, look, one thing that we do know, he doesn't belong in the same conversation as the rest of them.
Yeah.
Obvious from day one. We say things can change through the course of the week. That's not going to change. It just became pretty obvious to us that he doesn't have it the same way some of these other guys do. Maybe he could go on to be he could go on to do great things with some development. Obviously, he had the huge year. But as far as this week here, I don't think he's going to pull. I'm not sure crazier things have happened. I was going to say, who knows, crazier things have happened. I'm not sure crazier things have happened.
It felt weird because, like, he was I'm not even going to be bad. Like, he was not good the first probably 20 minutes of practice. And then they kind of split up into this. They kept two quarterbacks over here and they sent him over to the run game. And he was literally just handing the ball off. And it was like, this is going to relax this guy. But, like, I came in being like, this guy, all right, he's going to join this group. He's really going to join this group. And a lot of people talked about that. They're like, Zappi deserves to be in this conversation. He don't. He skipped a lot of balls. You saw a lot of 40-year-old Donovan McNabb bouncing the balls. Like, that was the visions that you kind of got.
And he's short.
And he's short, and his build is a little frumpy. It's just not it's not Sam. Sam Howell was just different. He was just different today. Malik Willis was just different. He's just not on that level of talent. And Bailey Zappi's a great quarterback, great guy in college, but some of these guys just aren't NFL quarterbacks.
Sam Howell's short too, but he's not as short. He's not as short as Baker Mayfield or Russell Wilson or any of these other guys that we've seen here at the game. He's just over 6 feet tall, 221 pounds. He's got 9 1/8 inch hands. So not, nothing physically you're going to look at and just say, holy shit. But I mean, the touch he puts on the ball, the
most catchable ball.
The most catchable ball, the placement of all the quarterbacks here. Sam Howell was the best quarterback today.
Yep.
Malik Willis was good too. Malik Willis had some of the best balls I saw today, and he also had some of the worst.
It's just like Cody pointed out, man. It was the out routes, both to the boundary and to the field, that were between 10 and 20 yards. He can't throw those things to save his damn life. But what he can do is in team drills, when dude's like number 96, who might be the best damn player here.
Yeah, like we talked about that on the walk back. He's the best player here. But
96, the edge rusher. Where's he from?
Jermaine Johnson from Florida State.
Jesus. Yeah. I mean, that's a monster. The Lions, you're getting a look at that guy. I mean, if they go edge rusher early, I mean,
they got the 23rd pick, 24th. They're in the 20s.
They don't need to go edge rusher early if they can.
Cowboys need an edge rusher.
Anyway, but you got that guy coming after you. Malik Willis, he can escape.
Yeah.
And he can get out and he can create sort of on his own. If you're looking at a guy that's throwing from the pocket, who can get it to all levels of the field, I wasn't huge on Sam Howell coming in here. This isn't a take lock thing. Yeah. I came in with a completely open mind. It felt like there's no consensus with these guys with who's really best. To me, it's like you watch it and you can just tell, your eyes just tell you the back foot hits the ground, the ball comes out. The timing's really, really good. There's good velocity on the football. Good strong arm, catchable ball, puts it in good tight spots, gives his receivers the opportunity to win. A lot of these dudes, I felt like, these wide receivers we talked about here, I think that, some of their best reps came with Howell throwing them the football. So they certainly didn't come with Zappi throwing them the football. So Trashman, did you like him better than Willis? Do you think that Willis and Howell are kind of leaders in the clubhouse?
I think they were the leaders in the clubhouse. I do think that Willis is the more exciting player for me. I feel like if you're talking about on his footwork, being out and getting the ball outside of the pocket, throwing the ball outside of the pocket, and just being a playmaker, I just feel Willis is more intriguing for me. Howell though just did everything right. And he's just really good touch on the ball, just really good placement with the ball, and maybe it's because he made it look so easy that it wasn't quite as dynamic as Willis, but it's everything that you want to see out of a quarterback, at least so far.
And coming into the year, if you remember, it was Rattler is the consensus, Rattler and Howell. And the reason that Howell kind of has gotten pulled back over this whole process is the numbers dropped down, the percentages dropped down, the big numbers, the big plays came down. Well, he lost a lot of talent. And now you come here and he makes these big plays. He makes the throws. He does everything here with the talent. Maybe it's just that.
Is Willis going to be able to start for an NFL team as a rookie?
Day one, no. But
at some point,
I think Willis could do more with less than a Howell could potentially.
I'd agree with that. I would agree with that.
Will it? What is it? How? Just out of curiosity, did he look like a first round pick to you?
Willis?
Yes.
I thought he was the second. Arguably second or third best quarterback out there today. I mean, I thought Howell looked the best.
Yep.
And I thought Willis on some throws, he had more zip than Pickett. I feel like Pickett didn't screw up.
Pickett just didn't do anything,
but he didn't do anything to stand out. I feel like Willis had some standout plays.
He had some bad standout plays too.
That's the only thing is like the two guys that hurt themselves from a throwing perspective, I think was Zappy obviously, but Strong and Willis. We wanted to see those out routes. We wanted to see that accuracy. Neither of them really.
They just need to get it a little bit under control, right? On some of those. All right, cool. And then just for some of these defensive players, that stuck out to me, the cornerback number 12,
Darion.
Darion Kendrick from Georgia really stuck out to me. Also, I have him written down a few times here. The Appalachian State linebacker. Just keep listening out for DeMarco Jackson.
That's what I had written down.
Yeah. Keeping an eye out for him. Number 99, who looks like that is Eric Johnson from Missouri State. So who the hell knows who the hell knows about that? But then the one, just 96.
We all got him.
96. Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah.
Defensive lineman, Florida State. Edge guy, monster. Once the full pads go on tomorrow,
it's gonna be
a lot tougher game, man, for a whole lot of these guys.
When we were just kind of sitting there, and I think we were in the section we might not have been in, but and nobody was really making much noise, and I was sitting here and I kind of was glancing over here and I glanced over here and I saw him one-on-one with Max Mitchell, the right tackle from Lafayette, and he put a spin on Max Mitchell where Mitchell came out of his stance. He took one step back. Jermaine hit that spin. He was around Mitchell. Mitchell didn't move. And it was like game. And I was like, oh, this is next level. And then after practice, he had a one-on-one with Darion Kendrick, who is a consensus top 20 guy, top 25 guy out of Kentucky. Bull rush. We saw that video. Bull rush the hell out of him. It's like this guy, like you said before, you remember when Aaron Donald was here? Obviously, I wasn't here, but you said he was the guy. Like this feels like to me a guy that is just on another level than everyone. And we have some good tackles here. We got some strong tackles, and he just feels like on a different level right now.
He sure doesn't think that they're any good. You don't think they're any good. And so we're going to try and do this again. We have some slight travel concerns because in Texas we got some snowy weather coming in, so we might have to do some stuff about with some flights and getting back home and things like that. But we're going to try and get at least another one of these out for you guys. We've really enjoyed it here with Cody Carpentier from Roto Underworld Player Profiler, me, the Trashman from RosterWatch. Not me, Alex Dunlap, and the Trashman.
He wishes he was the
RosterWatch.com. I don't wish I never wish.
Your son does.
No, well, Trashman. He wants to drive a trash truck because little boys want to drive trash trucks. So with that, man, love you guys. Thank you. We'll see you soon.